A Journey of Freedom, Unveiling the Book of Exodus. The Book of Exodus is a powerful testament to God's faithfulness and love. It tells the incredible story of the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom. This journey, filled with dramatic events and divine interventions, holds profound lessons for us today. Through the Exodus story, we witness God's power to deliver, His faithfulness to His promises, and His deep love for His people. Exodus is not just an ancient historical account, it is a living narrative that speaks to the deepest longings of the human heart. We all yearn for freedom, for deliverance from the things that hold us captive. We long to experience God's presence and provision in our lives. In the book of Exodus, we find hope and inspiration. We see that God is a God who hears the cries of His people. He sees their suffering and He comes to their rescue. He is a God who makes a way where there seems to be no way. This book invites us to embark on our own journey of faith. It encourages us to trust in God's plan, even when we don't understand it. As we delve into the story of the Exodus, let us open our hearts to receive the timeless truths and powerful lessons it holds. Setting the stage: the Exodus in time and context. The book of Exodus takes us back thousands of years to ancient Egypt. The Israelites, descendants of Jacob, are living in slavery. They cry out to God for deliverance from their oppression. God hears their cries and chooses Moses to lead them out of Egypt and into the Promised Land. While the exact date of the Exodus is debated among scholars, it is generally believed to have occurred sometime during the 13th century BC. The book itself doesn't explicitly name its author, but tradition attributes it to Moses. It's possible that Moses wrote the core of the book, with later prophets adding to it under divine inspiration. The setting of the Exodus is crucial to understanding its message. Egypt was a powerful empire, symbolizing the world's opposition to God. Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, represents the forces that seek to keep us in bondage. The Israelites, enslaved and oppressed, represent all those who long for freedom and a relationship with God. The Exodus story reminds us that God is at work in human history. He is not distant or uninvolved in our struggles. He sees our pain, hears our cries, and acts on our behalf. Even when we feel trapped and hopeless, God is able to deliver us. From oppression to promise, charting the Exodus narrative. The book of Exodus unfolds as a captivating narrative, taking us through the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom. It is a story of hope, resilience, and divine intervention that has inspired countless generations. We see their initial despair under Pharaoh's cruel rule, their longing for deliverance, and God's miraculous intervention. The Israelites' cries for help echo through the ages, reminding us of the power of faith and perseverance. The story begins with the Israelites' oppression in Egypt. They are forced into backbreaking labor, building cities and monuments for the Egyptian empire. Pharaoh, fearing their growing numbers, subjects them to harsh labor and cruel treatment. He orders the killing of all newborn Hebrew boys, hoping to weaken their strength and spirit. Despite their suffering, God has not forgotten them. He hears their prayers and sees their pain, and He is moved to act on their behalf. He raises up Moses, a man of faith and courage, to confront Pharaoh and demand the Israelites' release. Moses, once a prince of Egypt, now becomes the leader and deliverer of his people. When Pharaoh refuses, God unleashes a series of plagues upon Egypt. Each plague is a direct challenge to the Egyptian gods and a demonstration of God's supreme power. Each plague demonstrates God's power over nature and His determination to free His people. From the Nile turning to blood, to the swarms of locusts and the darkness that covered the land, each act is a sign of God's might. The plagues culminate in the Passover, a night of both judgment and deliverance. The Israelites are instructed to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, a sign for the angel of death to pass over their homes. While the angel of death strikes down the firstborn of Egypt, the Israelites are spared by the blood of the Passover lamb. This event becomes a cornerstone of their faith and a symbol of God's protection and mercy. Finally, Pharaoh relents and allows the Israelites to leave Egypt. They depart in haste, carrying with them the hope of a new beginning and the promise of a land flowing with milk and honey. They embark on a miraculous journey, crossing the Red Sea on dry ground and witnessing God's provision in the wilderness. The parting of the Red Sea is one of the most dramatic and awe-inspiring moments in the Exodus narrative. At Mount Sinai, God establishes a covenant with His people, giving them the 10 Commandments as a guide for their lives. These commandments form the foundation of their relationship with God and with each other. The Exodus story is a testament to God's faithfulness and power. It is a reminder that He is always with us, guiding us through our own journeys and challenges. It reminds us that He is always with us, even in the darkest of times. The story of the Exodus is not just a historical account, but a timeless message of hope and redemption. He hears our cries, sees our struggles, and is able to deliver us from any situation. The Exodus narrative continues to inspire and uplift, showing us that with faith, we can overcome any obstacle. Section 4. The Plagues of Egypt, God's Power and Justice on Display. The plagues of Egypt stand as a powerful testament to God's power and justice, a vivid display of His might and righteousness. They were not random acts of destruction but carefully orchestrated judgments against Pharaoh's stubborn refusal to acknowledge God and release his people. Each plague was a deliberate act, a divine response to Pharaoh's defiance. Each plague targeted a specific Egyptian deity, exposing the impotence of these false gods and demonstrating the supremacy of the one true God. The Egyptians worshipped a pantheon of gods, each believed to control different aspects of life and nature. The Nile River, worshipped as the lifeblood of Egypt, turned to blood. This was a direct affront to the god Hapi, who was believed to be the spirit of the Nile. Frogs, symbols of fertility, overran the land. This plague mocked the goddess Hecate, who was depicted with the head of a frog and associated with fertility and childbirth. Swarms of gnats and flies associated with the god of the air tormented the Egyptians. These plagues challenged the gods Geb and Khepri, who were believed to have control over the earth and insects. Pestilence struck their livestock, a blow to their economic stability. This plague was a direct challenge to Hathor, the goddess of love and protection, often depicted as a cow. Boils covered their bodies, humiliating their priests who were supposed to ensure purity. This plague exposed the powerlessness of the gods of health and disease, such as Sekhmet and Imhotep. Hail and locusts, representing the gods of nature, devastated their crops. These plagues were a direct affront to Nut, the sky goddess, and Osiris, the god of crops and fertility. The ninth plague, darkness covering the land for 3 days, symbolized the spiritual darkness that had gripped Egypt. This was a direct challenge to Ra, the sun god, who was considered the most powerful deity in the Egyptian pantheon. Finally, the 10th and most devastating plague, the death of the firstborn, directly challenged Pharaoh's claim to divinity. Pharaoh was considered a god on earth, and this plague struck at the heart of his divine status. It was on this night, the Passover, that God's judgment fell upon Egypt, sparing only those who had the blood of the Lamb on their doorposts. This act of faith by the Israelites marked them as God's chosen people, protected from the angel of death. The plagues were not meant to be cruel or vindictive. They were acts of mercy, designed to awaken Pharaoh's conscience and lead him to repentance. Each plague was an opportunity for Pharaoh to recognize the true God and change his ways. They were acts of mercy, designed to awaken Pharaoh's conscience and lead him to repentance. Each plague was a call to recognize God's power and authority, a chance for Pharaoh to choose humility and obedience. Each plague was a call to recognize God's power and authority, a chance for Pharaoh to choose humility and obedience. Tragically, he hardened his heart until it was too late. Tragically, he hardened his heart until it was too late. Pharaoh's refusal to humble himself before God led to the ultimate downfall of his nation. The plagues serve as a stark reminder that God is just and will not tolerate sin indefinitely. They illustrate the consequences of defying God's will and the importance of obedience to His commands. They also demonstrate His power to deliver His people, no matter how impossible the situation may seem. The Exodus stands as a powerful symbol of liberation and God's unwavering commitment to His promises. When we face challenges in our own lives, we can take comfort in knowing that the same God who delivered the Israelites from Egypt is with us, fighting our battles and working all things together for our good. His power and justice are timeless, offering hope and assurance in every generation. Section 5. Leaving Egypt, a miraculous escape, and the covenant at Sinai. The Exodus from Egypt is nothing short of a miraculous display of God's power and love for His people. It is a story that has been passed down through generations, a testament to the enduring faith and resilience of the Israelites. With a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, He delivered them from slavery and set their feet on a path to freedom. This act of divine intervention was not just a physical liberation but also a spiritual awakening for the people of Israel. Imagine the scene, hundreds of thousands of Israelites with their families and possessions fleeing Egypt. The air filled with the sounds of hurried footsteps, the cries of children, and the murmurs of hope and fear intermingling. Pharaoh, in a moment of regret, pursued them with his army, trapping them against the Red Sea. The sight of the approaching chariots must have struck terror into the hearts of the fleeing Israelites. It seemed like all hope was lost, but God had a plan. In the face of what seemed like certain doom, he provided a way out, demonstrating his sovereignty over nature and history. He parted the waters of the sea, allowing the Israelites to walk through on dry ground. This miraculous event was a powerful reminder of God's ability to make the impossible possible. When Pharaoh and his chariots followed, the waters returned, swallowing them up. The very sea that had been a barrier to freedom became a means of deliverance and judgment. This miraculous deliverance marked a turning point in the Israelites' journey. It was a moment of profound transformation where fear turned into faith and despair into hope. They had witnessed God's power firsthand and experienced his faithfulness in a tangible way. Their faith was no longer based on stories from the past, but on their own lived experiences. Their hearts were filled with awe and gratitude, ready to follow wherever he led them. This newfound faith and trust in God would be crucial for the challenges that lay ahead. Their journey led them to Mount Sinai, where God established a covenant with his people. This was not just a legal agreement, but a sacred bond that defined their identity and purpose. He gave them the Ten Commandments, a set of moral and ethical guidelines designed to shape their lives and reflect his character. These commandments were more than rules. They were principles for living a life that honored God and respected others. This covenant was a testament to God's love and commitment to his people. It was a promise that he would be their God, guiding and protecting them as they journeyed through life. He promised to bless them and be their God, and they in turn promised to obey his commands. This mutual commitment was the foundation of their relationship with God. The Exodus and the covenant at Sinai are foundational events in the history of God's people. They are reminders of God's power, faithfulness, and love, and they continue to inspire and guide believers today. They remind us that God is a God of deliverance, a God who sets captives free and makes a way where there seems to be no way. His power to save and transform is as real today as it was in the days of the Exodus. He is also a God of covenant, a God who keeps his promises and remains faithful to those who love him. This enduring faithfulness is the bedrock of our relationship with him, giving us hope and assurance in every season of life. Thank you for watching our video on Genesis. So you never miss another informative video, subscribe to our channel, Inspirational Cross. Like and share and tap on the bell to be notified when we post a new video. God bless you.